Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started in a couple of minutes, just give a bit of time for some people to join us. But thank you so much that most of you are here very punctually. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Keisha Thompson. I'm the Senior Learning Programme Manager for the World Reimagined, and I'm going to be co-hosting this wonderful event with Sabrina, who's also a part of the learning team. And we've also got Mabel, who's holding it down in the chat. So if you've got any questions at any point, anything you want to say, Mabel's going to be keeping an eye on that. So please do use that. So let's get into it, shall we? Basically, Sabrina and I and Mabel have been working very, very hard getting these resources together, and we are so relieved that we were able to put them out on Friday, and we've had some really great responses to them so far. So we're just going to talk a bit about them today. We're going to hear from the editor, Roma. We're going to hear from an exciting partnership that we have that has meant that we've created some extra resources that went out today on the website as well. But you'll hear a little bit more about that later on. And you'll also hear from some of our pilot students and a pilot teacher. So people who were helping us as we were developing these resources to get them to the state that they were, teachers that were helping us to reflect on how to make them better and giving us feedback. So let's get into it. So for those of you who don't know, and I feel like we have some really good fans that have joined us again and again for these events, and we really do appreciate seeing you come back and engage with what we've been doing. But for anyone who doesn't know, the World Reimagined has this wonderful thematic arc called the Journey of Discovery, and our resources have been focused on this. So we have developed resources that are suitable for primary schools and secondary. And the primary school resources have focused mainly on the first module, which is Mother Africa. We felt like it was really important for young learners to make that association that when we talk about Black history, we're not talking about colonialism, we're talking about something bigger than that, and something that isn't weighed down and loaded, and essentially something that can be deemed as being quite negative. We want them to be able to appreciate Africa for what it is, for its history, before we even think about how it was connected to the rest of the world. The knowledge that was there, the heritage, just everything. But obviously we can't do everything, so we trimmed it down and shoved it into 36 wonderful lessons that we hope you will enjoy. And then the secondary resources, they're also suitable for high level learners, college as well. We feel that they are adaptable to that point. They follow the whole arc. So going from Mother Africa, then getting into the colonial history, which we feel we need to stress as a shared history. So looking at the reality of being enslaved, the stolen legacy, the impact that it had when money went into the UK, specifically. We know that it went into other parts of Europe, but we're very much focused on the UK. Abolition and emancipation, a complex triangle, echoes in the present, still we rise, and expanding soul. That's when we start to think about contemporary issues, like how can we acknowledge what has happened in the past? How can we see those remnants of it and the impacts of it today? How are we resisting against it, moving past it? How are we expanding? Which then leads us to the majestic 9th module, which is Reimagine the Future, which is what this project is all about. It's like, how can we reflect on what's happened? How can we process that information and then think forwardly? How can we look to the future and think, okay, what do we want to see? What would I like to see in the world? How do I want to feel about the world? How can I feel connected? How can I do that? So making it really, really tangible. So that leads me on to the next thing, which is the 5 C's. So we have created a pedagogical foundation. I hope you're loving all of this jargon, by the way, that will allow teachers to see skills developed in their learners as they use our resources. And we think that they can be simmered down into this wonderful collection of C words, which are compassion, curiosity, courage, connection, critical thinking. We've created some resources that specifically allow you to monitor how that works in the classroom. So this is an example here of how, this is a Mother Africa sheet that would be used for primary schools, but we've got them for every single module, primary and secondary. This could be printed out so that it could be used for individuals, it could be done big, and then you could have post-it notes. It could be just a reference point for you as a teacher and you actually do the activity verbally. We really want to make sure that it's quite flexible, but it's something that allows you to go through lesson by lesson and monitor with your young people. Okay, how have we seen compassion today, or how have I shown compassion? Linking those skills to the modules, to the learning. We really feel that that's quite important. So that is one of the resources that we have created for you there. Okay, so we also think it's key to acknowledge the fact that in Wales, so we've got a set of programs that these resources can be used in attachment to. So that's the Globe program, which happens in all of these cities, as you can see here, and the Poetic program. But I just wanted to hone in on this bit at the bottom actually of this slide, which is the fact that in Wales, they're doing something which is really, really just quite heartwarming. They are making it compulsory for Black and Asian and minority ethnic histories and experiences to be taught on the curriculum. I think that's quite groundbreaking. And we feel that our resources are really well placed to support in that. So we're really excited that we're going to have presence in Swansea, and we really want to see how our resources land there and support those teachers as they start to do that good work. Okay, so Sabrina, would you like to join me? So I thought it would be nice for us to talk about our favourite resources. We've been working on these a lot. And it's nice for us to just take a breather and go, oh, what was my favourite actually? And I said to Sabrina, I've cheated a little bit because I couldn't pick one. So I picked two. And the first one is Mother Africa, the Timbuktu lesson. Because I think for me, growing up, Timbuktu, I thought it was a myth. I thought it was a joke. I didn't know that it was a real place. And it was only when I was in like my late teens that I realized that it was actually a place, and it's a very significant place, one of the first universities in the world, and people traveling across the world to get to this place in West Africa to find out about maths, about astrology, all these philosophy, all these big topics. And I was just like, what? Why has that been reduced to a joke? I don't understand. So I think the fact that it's on this course, the fact that it's going to be in primary schools, it just makes me so happy. So that's why that's my favorite. And then my second one is Reimagine the Future. We've got an English lesson which focuses specifically on the Desmond Show, and my family's Guyanese, so I think that's it, isn't it? But also, no, I'm a writer. I love stuff that's comedic because it allows us to process. But I think what was amazing about the Desmond Show is that it was the power of normality. It turned out to be one of the most successful sitcoms on TV. So not a Black sitcom, just a sitcom. It turned out to be one of the most successful at the time. And it was just about showing everyday normal Black families. And it was just so powerful to show that and not pander to any kind of stereotypes. And I remember growing up with that show, and it had an impact on me. And Lanre Bakare, who's a journalist from The Guardian, is the one who picked it and asked us to put it in these resources. And again, I was just like, oh, wow, you've really just reminded me of how impactful that show is. And my nephew, who's 21, last year, I think, came into the house and kicked off because we'd not told him about it. He just discovered it on Channel 4. I didn't think he'd be interested in it, but he was like, I just found this show on Channel 4. It's really good. And I was like, oh, I'm really glad that you watched it. And he was just like, why didn't you tell me about it? So I'm just glad that it's still doing that. Like, it's still serving people, and the younger generations are going to know about it because of this module. So let me jump over to you, Sabrina.
I just want to jump on the bandwagon there, actually, because actually when I remember how impactful it was to actually just see a Channel 4 program with an all-Black cast. And I think at the time we kind of underestimated the importance of what that actually really meant. But prior to that time, other than a few shows here or there, none that were really long-standing, there just wasn't anyone that you looked on TV to as a Black person that you could really identify with. And being a Londoner and a South Londoner, and the program being set in Peckham, meant that there was like a real connection and you were able to really identify with that. So that's a really good choice. So well done for that. My favorite, first of all, I just want to say I'm Sabrina. I'm one of the learning program officers, and I've been working alongside Keisha, helping to develop and prepare all of these resources for all of you. And it's something I'm really proud of, and I'm really excited that we're launching these and you get get your hands on them and to share them with all of your young people. I've worked mostly on the secondary resources. So my favorite lesson is from A Complex Triangle, and it's the English lesson from the secondary resources on the complex triangle, which uses an extract from Selena Thompson's play Salt, which essentially is her kind of retracing her heritage and the impact of the slave trade and what that actually has on her life in modern day Britain. And there's an extract as a part of this English lesson that children are asked to analyse and reflect on. And it's about mostly about how, just because of the color of her skin, the sort of daily circumstances that she finds herself in and the impact of that. And unless you are a Black person living that reality day to day, it's probably something that you never experienced, or you're not necessarily aware of, or haven't really been brought to your attention until kind of major key events have happened in more recent years and these conversations have opened up. So the fact that we have a lesson and we've got fantastic contributors from the arts world who can share their resources with us so that we can really pick it apart and really explore what it means to be a Black person in Western modern society. It's really important, not just for children who are Black, but for everybody, especially if we're going to move forward and try and overcome some of those barriers that exist in society today. So yes, a complex triangle is my favorite lesson so far.
Well, thank you. Okay, so Sabrina's going to join us again a little bit later to talk about the brilliant work that she's been doing for our leadership in teaching resources, and that are specifically for teachers and your CPD, as opposed to stuff that you would use in the classroom. But before we get to that, I wanted to just share some audio from some students who were piloting our resources for us. So it was in St Anne's Primary. We also had teachers piloting resources in Charlton High, and unfortunately they were supposed to try and get a video to me, but technical difficulties, they couldn't get it across. So we'll just hear from some students in St Anne's.
So I'm here with 2 year sixes, and we're going to talk about our lesson we did on Mother Africa. So guys, what did we do first?
So we were doing like describing the people like Nana Benz, Keisha, Thompson, Dr. Pablo, and we were describing how they were like nice, kind, brave, loyal.
What do you like about the lesson?
What I liked about it is when they showed the videos, it wasn't just a fake one. It was actually them talking and saying what they did instead of people just explaining what they did. It's him himself.
Okay. Anything that you learned from that lesson?
That there was this group called Nana Benz, and they made like clothes together, and they even drive a Mercedes Benz.
Were the people that we learned about people that you already knew, or were they new people?
I say new people because usually in Black History Month we would usually talk about equal rights, not people that come from Africa or who make a difference.
Great. Why do you think that lesson was important?
It shows that Black people have the same right as everyone else in the world.
It shows that we're all equal and no one should be left out.
All right, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Great. So just to give space to the video that we would have had from Charlton High, I was really quite blown away. I was quite moved actually when I was reviewing the resources with the three teachers. So we had an art teacher, an English teacher, and a history teacher, because that's the way that the resources are delineated for secondary. One of them said that her class, which is predominantly boys, they were year 10 class, I think, and I think she said they were set 8 out of 10 for English, and they were looking at this lesson which has a contribution from an academic called Sami Pinabashi, and he's an academic in Manchester, and he was talking about the activism that he's been doing, the petition that he's been doing around getting a statue taken down in Manchester of Sir Robert Peel. And he's not the most confident of speakers, but he's a lecturer and he does a lot of work around speaking out and whatever else. But yeah, he, compared to some of the other contributors, let's say, who are a bit more from the arts world, he doesn't necessarily stand out in that way, let's say. But she said that they actually took to him because of that, it caught them off guard, and they didn't expect to see this academic, this activist who was very soft-spoken, and it really made them think about representation, and it made them feel like they could contribute and that they could get to a point where they could do some of the things that he was talking about. And she said that that was very much a moment for her where she thought about the power of representation, and we shouldn't always look to the most eloquent speakers or the loudest and charismatic figures to contribute to these resources, because there are a variety of young people that need to feel seen and feel like they belong. So that was just a really moving bit of feedback that we got that I wasn't expecting. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with everyone. I know we've got a raised hand. Could you put your question in the chat possibly, or in the Q&A section, and we will try our best to answer it near the end. So now I'd like to welcome Roma to join us. Roma has been just a superstar, an absolute legend, working on these resources, because there are 65 of them, people, 65. And Roma's just been going through, making sure that they are clear, that they are cohesive, and also did some content creation for the Mother Africa section. So Roma, just tell us a bit about yourself, how this process went for you. Yeah, let's go.
Hi, I'm Roma. I'm an editor and a poet and work in education, and I'm now the learning manager at Manchester Poetry Library, which was a job I got halfway through this process. So I was managing that alongside. But so Keisha asked me to come onto this project sort of when the resources were halfway through being made. And I was really excited by the prospects, but quite nervous because there were so many, and also because it's really something you want to get right. And I think everybody who's worked on these resources really felt that that getting these right would really be the most important thing. So I can't remember what the rest of the question was, but that's me.
Yeah, so I think the next thing I wanted to just ask was, what were your thoughts around just pushing the idea that this is a shared history?
So I was thinking about this a lot, particularly in relation to the primary resources, because I would say I worked on those the most, just because I did some content creation on them as well. And so much of what you learn in school is new information about the world, and the world feels like yours, and that you're a part of the world. And as you become older, you start to learn more about, oh, these are different countries in this way, and you become more and more isolated into different identities. And it's a really important time to catch people and be like, no, this is all of us. And all of our ancestors were connected to this history in different ways. And the world, how it is now, is made up of all of these histories. So we're all part of it. And I think that's also why it felt really important to keep the primary resources so centered in that Mother Africa module, and really focus on the history of Africa and its cultures and its countries, and really being specific with those things. Like focusing mainly on musicians from Mali at one point, and really being clear. Often teaching in primary schools is like Africa as a continent, rather than Africa as the individual countries, the many individual countries that make it up. So I think that was really important around the shared histories element.
Yeah, great. Just to say, Roma and I work together in a number of ways. And that's why I was so trusting of her coming on into the process and being the editor, because I was thinking, I need someone who has an arts background. I need someone who works in schools. I need someone who is passionate about this work. And we do some anti-racism training on behalf of Contact. And I think Roma just does such a great job with all of the work that she does of showing what it looks like to be an ally. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, Roma.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and being a poet, I was thinking through metaphors a little bit, and I was thinking of the kind of role of an editor as a bit of a metaphor for allyship, because I think a good editor comes in and doesn't overwrite anything and doesn't take a platform that isn't theirs, but asks the right questions and takes a bit of the pressure off, and checks for things like precision and things like structure that really support and uplift the stories and that need to be told. And that's how I kind of think about the role of allyship, is sort of doing a bit of the background work that needs to be done, but also supporting and asking the right questions that might mean that everything that needs to be heard is heard.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about allyship, and that's how I try to practice it. But it is always continuous and always about curiosity. That's what I was thinking of, curiosity, rather than knowing that I'm not an expert ally. I'm just a person keeping on trying to do it.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions for Roma before she leaves us, and we move on to our other guest speakers? Just wanted to give a bit of space for that in case anyone wants to ask Roma anything specifically. And thank you for joining us, Lizzie. Saw your comment in the chat. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Roma. It was a pleasure to work with you on this project. And I think the resources are great, if I don't say so myself. So moving on to our next guests, we have Melissa DaCosta and Teddy Inonga. And please let me know if I've said that wrong.
It's all right, it's a bit tricky.
No, correct me, please.
It's Nonga.
Nonga, thank you. Yeah, and they both work for GE. Now, we're really excited to say that we have been working with GE to create some resources. We're working in partnership with them. They are very much in support of our learning program, and we're going to be working with some of their schools for doing our Globe program, but we also were really keen to create some resources that specifically highlight STEM topics. So we had to think about what was the best way to approach that, and we felt that it would be really useful to latch onto some icons. So we did a lot of shortlisting, didn't we? We all threw loads of names into the ring, loads of really geeky, exciting meetings that I love. We just talked about all these fabulous people, and it's a shame that we could only pick 4. But yeah, so essentially we've picked 4 and we've created 2 resources attached to each of those icons. So you get a science and you get a maths. And I'm just going to hand over now to Melissa and Teddy to just tell us a bit more about themselves and about GE. And then we'll hear from both of them about the process because they've contributed in different ways.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. I work as a medical imaging scientist for GE Healthcare. And I think I'll talk a little bit about GE and why this partnership is so important to us. So General Electronics is a 100+ years American multinational conglomerate, and we operate in 130 countries. And so one of our main purposes in our mission statement is we rise to the challenge of building a world that works. And so in the UK, we have roughly 8,500 employees across 20 sites. And we work in businesses such as power, renewable energy, aviation, and healthcare. And we have a really long-standing community investment program in which GE recognizes and owns that they have power in this space of STEM careers. And in these programs, we create opportunities, and also we try to change how STEM careers are perceived since young ages up to the workplace stages. And this happens because we are living proof of how diverse teams and diverse perspectives can accelerate innovation in several spaces, right? And so particularly, I work for, I lead the STEM and Girls Get Set project in Followerswood. And my main goal is to promote inclusion and diversity and show that an engineer can look so many different ways. And there's not a specific way of an engineer looking like. And also, we recognize that in order to create long-term and sustainable change, this can only be achieved through allyship with other communities, with other organizations. And so the World Reimagined was just a blessing. It just complemented everything that we were looking for in terms of our work in the community investment. And the way you guys approach and the way you develop these resources are exactly the target of what we want to do, create these changes from very early on so that they can be long-standing and that they are indeed sustainable, right? And I think it also ties up a lot with our mission statement, which is to make sure that we create and challenge and build a world that works, but this includes a world that works for everyone.
Amazing. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
So Melissa was very much a part of the process in terms of us shortlisting and having these meetings and talking about what these resources could and should be. And we are releasing 2 of them today. So one science, one maths attached to one icon. And then later on in the year in September, we're going to be releasing the last 3. And we really hope that that will galvanize teachers to use them as we run up to Black History Month. So I'm just going to hand over now to Teddy to talk about his process, what he does with GE, and how he contributed to our fabulous resources.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Teddy Ngonga. I am a software engineer at GE. I work in robotics, so it's pretty good. I get to play around with robots all day, fun times. But as Melissa said, GE is all about innovation, building a world that works, but also focusing on diversity and inclusion and all those great things. Our work environment, our ideology is to have a great place to work, create a great place to work, which means we want everyone to come for work and not leave their heritage behind, leave their religion behind, leave parts of themselves behind. We want them to bring their whole selves to work, and that's why I love working for GE. So I've been here at GE for, I think it's coming up to 3 years this summer. It's the only company I've ever worked for in my young career so far, and I'm so glad and so lucky to be working for such a great company. So what have we got prepared for the learners? So we have, as Keisha said, we got together, we had a great time figuring out which STEM heroes to pick for the learning programs. And we came down to 4 STEM heroes. This first one that we're going to be releasing, have already released, the STEM hero is one that I particularly identify with a lot. His name is Latimer, and you can see him on the screen right now. Latimer, he was born into slavery, basically. His parents were slaves. His identity at birth was slave, but he didn't take that identity upon himself, and he reinvented that place that he was put into, and he grew out of that and said, no, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be an inventor. Matter of fact, I'm going to work with Thomas Edison himself. So Latimer, he did some great inventions that we use even till today, have influenced today's innovations, today's technology that we're using. And it was such a great time just learning about him and seeing what he did. And the fact that he worked for GE and I work for GE, personally, it makes me feel really warm inside. You know, it makes me That's why I identify with him so much, because he's in the tech field, he's in STEM, he's an inventor. Inventors and engineers, we're kind of like cousins, you know, we both dream things and use science and maths to create things. I consider myself an inventor sometimes. So yeah, I'm really excited to have the learners learning about Thomas Edison, about Lewis Latimer, and knowing that a person of color, a Black person, was involved in this journey of technology, this journey of invention of the world that we live in today. And a lot of people don't know that. So I'm really excited for this to come out and be common knowledge.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Teddy. And yeah, it was a pleasure doing the video with you. I remember I was like, have you done this before? Because he's just got so much passion and it was great. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait for this to land in the classroom, for young people to appreciate, as you've said, Lewis Latimer's contributions, but also one of the big things that I really enjoyed when we were having these discussions was talking about pushing this idea of collaborative working, getting people to understand that, you know, it's not, most of the things that you see in the world, it's not one person. There's no way that it's just one person that came up with that. It's a whole cohort of people, and that's not a bad thing. And bringing in diversity of thought into a space and thinking big is just a joyous thing and helps to make the world better. So we really hope that that comes across in these resources. Thank you so much, Melissa and Teddy, for talking about GE and the resources that will be coming your way for later on in the year. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is hand over to the fabulous learning officer, Sabrina. And she is going to talk about the leadership in teaching resources and events that we have coming up.
Okay, hello again, everyone. Just before I go into the leadership in teaching program, I just wanted to just quickly talk about how the learning resources are going to be presented to you. So when you log into your portal, you should all have your email addresses and your passwords and stuff, and logs in. You'll see PDFs in the form of lesson plans, scheme of works, and any additional resources and worksheets. And then the lessons themselves are PowerPoint presentations. And many of them, our contributors have been filmed or recorded, and we've recorded a particular session or shared an element of their specialism or work. And then the rest of the lesson is extended around that filmed video extract. So just so that you understand what it is that you're going to be receiving and experiencing when you begin to engage with the resources. So, and you've got a full understanding of that. So, I mean, ultimately, whether you're primary or secondary, you should be able to get your PowerPoint up on the screen. And even if you looked at it blindly and you hadn't had time to read the lesson plan, you should be able to deliver the lesson. All of the resources and the worksheets and everything have been organized for you to make it as simple for you to kind of engage with this and deliver it amongst your teams as easily as possible. So I thought I would just touch on that before I move on to my section. So you will have been receiving quite a lot of email communications from us quite recently, and we apologize for that. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming when there's lots of long-winded emails and lots of information and dates and stuff coming your way. And I promise that sort of communication will begin to die down. Now, the majority of people are going to be launching their learning program and delivering the resources after the Easter holidays in the summer term, and obviously your globes will be arriving in May and will need to be designed and decorated by July, when they'll be collected to be put on display as an extension of the major sculpture trail. But alongside all of the amazing resources that we've delivered and designed for your students, we are launching a leadership and teaching program, which is going to be an online series of modules that are going to help support you with the delivery of the content that you're going to come into contact with this learning program. So it will cover loads of different elements about race identity. Now, in next week, and I appreciate that for many of you, it's going to be the Easter break. So there are going to be 3 leadership and teaching modules that we are going to be filming and presenting next week. So you can see Keisha's put on the board there, the 4th of April is going to be the basics. The 5th of April, we're going to go over language and the importance of language. And then the 6th of April, we are going to be covering well-being. Now, these are there to support you in your delivery of the program with your students. They are also there for your staff and your extended teaching networks in school to engage with, and you can use it for staff development. You can use it to engage the rest of your teams in the topics around race, identity, racial justice, and just getting a bit more of a support network about dealing with some of the issues that we're talking about. Some of the lessons you come across and some of the content you come into contact with on the learning program is going to make you emotional. It's going to make you reflective. It's going to sometimes be triggering or make you upset, because it actually deals with the realities of people. It deals with our shared history. And unfortunately, some of the things that took place, years ago, and that still take place today, are unsettling and are not very nice. And so what we wanted to do was not just throw you into the deep end and go, look, you need to discuss all of these and teach all of the untruths to these people, with no consideration to the fact that for you as individuals, no matter what color or background or ethnicity or culture you come from, as well as that of your children's, is not taken into consideration. So following on from these, there is going to be an extensive leadership and teaching program, which is going to be made available online from the end of April. And then throughout the remainder of the learning program, there are going to be subsequent modules that are going to be released that you can engage with online. So whilst our in-person training events are going to only be open to 2 members of staff from each school, the online leadership and teaching program is a further extension from that, and will give you an opportunity, because it's online, to share that content and all of those teachings and that learning with your wider school teams. And so you can feel free to tap into this, use it as twilight, use it as staff development, use it to help improve your school improvement plan, all of those sorts of things. And some of the modules that we are going to be delivering are the following. Give me a second, because I've got them written down. We're going to cover narratives of identity. We're going to cover power and privilege. We're going to explore what privileged positions we hold. We're going to look at unconscious bias. We're going to look at prosperity as a consequence of oppression. Values in action is another module. How to become more intentional and turn your behavior into action, how you can become an ally. What does that look like in a teaching and a classroom setting? We're going to be looking at breakthrough conversations, the foundations of building trust, being vulnerable when dealing with some of these topics, understanding and encouraging allyship and coalition. And we've addressed that today with some of what Roma was saying about her collaboration with editing the resources and being an ally. The racial disparities in schools, which is a really important module. What does that actually look like? What does racial inequality look like in a school setting? Looking at closing the gap. Reflecting and reviewing on exclusions and rewards and sanctions and how they're used, and how children who are Black or part of the Black community can be overrepresented negatively in our reward systems. Creating safe spaces, language and assumptions, and becoming an anti-racist. So that's just to give you a flavour of some of the modules that are yet to come. And again, it's about supporting you as teachers, empowering you and giving you the tools so that you feel confident and empowered to openly have these discussions, to have a moment of reflection for yourselves, to have these conversations as an extension of the project in your everyday lives, with your families, with your friends. And it's only through, us reflecting and having these conversations and feeling supported to kind of come together and acknowledge that these things happen and take place, that we can move forward and really get to a place of, championing and hoping for racial equality and racial justice. So this is all about supporting teachers. It's all about developing teachers, and it's all about supporting you in delivering the program so that you're not just left out there when you've got a child who comes and has got a really important question that, you know, maybe throws you off guard or is something that you hadn't considered, or that you see a reaction in your classroom to something that is a part of the content or one of the lessons and you think, oh, I didn't realize that that could be a potential reaction. This is all about supporting you with dealing with any potential difficulties or challenges that could come out of teaching the program, but also some of the beauty that will come from teaching the program as well, and how you can reflect on and move forward with that. So if anyone has any questions about the leadership in teaching program, please let us know.
Thank you, Sabrina. Yeah, so any questions, please throw them in the chat or the Q&A section. I know earlier on there was someone who had a raised hand. Please do feel free to come to us now with that question. We are happy to answer it. And whilst we're waiting, I just want to shout out the images that you're seeing here are from the fabulous artist Alison Erica Ford, and she did all the illustrations for our resources. And she is just a brilliant artist that I've worked with a few times, and yeah, she was so excited. She was so excited to contribute to these resources. Yeah. Okay. So someone has said, hi, would you say that the resources are suited towards more Key Stage 2? We tested them with Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So the Key Stage 1 teacher did test it with the higher level Key Stage 1. So I would say mainly, yeah, higher level Key Stage 1 and then Key Stage 2 for sure. But there are some of the resources that are, you know, around like the Adinkra symbols and stuff like that. And I could definitely picture younger learners drawing and thinking about symbols and the things that they see out in the world. There's a whole module that's about hair and fashion and things like that. So again, all very visual. So what we've done with these resources is try to make them as adaptable as possible. We know that you teachers have your expertise and you know your young people better than anyone else. So we're hoping that you can look at the resources and go, oh, do you know what? I'll just focus on this bit maybe, or this would actually take up a whole week for me, but we all get to this point at this stage and whatever else. So we've got worksheets that we hope can be adapted for various purposes. And yeah, we've just tried to create things that will speak to as many learners as possible. So I hope that's answered your question. Another is, can I share the links for the leadership sessions with a number of my teachers in the school? You can indeed. Yes, so following up from this event, what we'll do is send an email to all the attendees with just the links to the events. Does that sound all right, Sabrina? I know we're thinking about how we can.
Yeah, no, anyone that was signed up to, sorry, Keisha, anyone that was signed up to this event will automatically get a recording, and anyone who has signed up to the 3 events that are taking place next week, I've had a lot of communications from people a bit worried that it is going to be the Easter break for them and teachers might be away. So those links would be shared. But I think some of the questions might be about the online resources over a period of time, and they're going to be available online via your portal where you access your resources, and so you can log in and access them in your own time or whenever is suited to you. So whilst there will be about 10 different modules over a period of time throughout the duration of the program, I appreciate you're not going to be able to attribute all of your twilight time or training time or meeting time to looking at all of those, but you can give your staff access to them. They're going to be online resources via our website, and as and when either individuals or groups of teachers or you want to use it as training material, you'll be able to just log in online and access it, and it will all be there for you to engage with in your own time, at a time that's suitable for you. And of course, you can use that online material to share with your whole staff team. It doesn't have to just be the 2 people who are going to come to our in-person training, or the lead teacher who's kind of running the program in your school, or the teachers delivering it in your school. It can be anyone in your school can engage with it. It's there for everybody.
And there's another question that's just kind of pushing on that, saying, will they be available in future years? Yeah, that's definitely the intention. And we can't say specifically the amount of time, but we are definitely hoping that they will be a legacy. And even when the exhibitions wind down and we've finished our events in Black History Month in October, we still want these resources to have presence. So that's definitely the intention, that you will be able to access them in the future once the project is over. Okay, so that's all the questions in the chat that have been answered. Any more for any more? I love it when it's quiet.
The only other thing I would say about our resources, particularly if we go back to, is it suitable for Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2? I think with the primary resources in particular, the lessons are really adaptable. So if you, as the member of staff, look at the resources, the Mother Africa units that we've done for primary, I mean, I had someone contact me who is an early years educator in a nursery and wanted to do it with their 3 to 4 year olds, so they're preschoolers. And I thought about whether or not it would be accessible to them. And actually, why not? We've seen from the pilot schools that they've adapted quite a lot of our lessons when they, you know, when they did the display, Keisha, about, my favorite African foods, and they actually used plates to kind of design a display and look at and learn about lots of different African foods. You can take some of the themes from the lessons and adapt it to your own settings or your own age groups and things like that. And that's quite easy to do. I think there's enough content within each of the resources themselves to kind of really adapt it to make it suitable for whoever it is that you want it to work with. So that is a good thing. So a full range of primary to secondary school, and the lower ages would be able to access it too, I think.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a way of sharing adapted lessons with colleagues?
I think the way that our pilot schools maybe adapted lessons was kind of quite personal to them, and we only got a glimpse of that in some feedback that they shared with pictures and stuff that they took with some of the lessons that they delivered as a part of the pilot scheme.
I don't think they wrote anything down or like adjusted the lesson plans. No,
I think what I'm saying is there's the lessons are really easy to differentiate and adapt yourselves. Like, you'll be able to see some of the key themes and think, oh, I could do this with it. And we're just encouraging you to do that, really.
Yeah. So in the lesson plans, we've got clear questions saying you could ask this, you could ask this, or maybe with other learners, you might do this. Suggested extra reading. There's videos, as Sabrina said before, and you can choose to pause and play at whatever moment you like. You know, we kind of link it up to the PowerPoint in a way that makes sense to us, but it doesn't mean that you can't deviate from that. So yeah, we just hope that that's clear, and we didn't put any kind of like specific times on things, because again, we were just like, you know, how long's a piece of string? We all know what it's like. You plan a lesson, you get in there and it goes completely the other way that you planned it. But that can be a great thing, because there might be a really juicy learning moment and you go, do you know what, we need to hone in on this, actually we need to pause here, and this is a whole lesson in itself. So that's the way that we've just tried to give you something that's very linear, has a very clear shape, but you feel that you can stretch it or concertina it in any way that you like. Is there a platform where we can share what we're doing and what we learn from each other? Yeah, that's something that we were hoping to be able to develop, but in a bigger conversation with the website and everything, it's not been a priority just yet. But we've definitely got the Twitter page and our Instagram, and we really want to encourage teachers to use that. So every teacher that's signed up, we've asked for your handle so that we can tag you and interact with you. So we really encourage you to use those social media platforms, and we will be retweeting to our heart's content all of that content, and hopefully, yeah, that's a way that other teachers can see what you're doing. But yeah, we are going to be intending to collate or find a way that's a bit more clear and delineated in terms of sharing what it is that you're doing once those globes go out in May.
Also, when we have our in-person training events, there'll be an opportunity for you to meet other teachers from your host city. And because of GDPR, we can't share too much of your information and email addresses amongst other people. But when you're in person and you give your permission, you can maybe network with the other teachers in your host city, and we can work out a way that's quite easy for people to share and connect with each other. Because obviously, if you try something out and it works really well, yeah, we do want you to share that. So we will create a little networking opportunity in our live in-person events with teaching staff that do come to those. But it is something to take into consideration. Someone has said, will login details to the portals be emailed over to us? So the majority of people have received their login details. If you were a school who signed up in the past week as we approach the deadline, you won't have been given your details yet. We will be contacting you. If you're a school who has already been previously signed up a little while before the deadline last week, and you have not received your login details, I've just put my email address in the chat. So please send me a direct email, and first thing tomorrow, I will make sure that you get your portal details. We are dealing with over 250 schools, and it is quite possible that I could have missed you from the various spreadsheets that we're working from. So apologies if anyone hasn't, but there are definitely some people who haven't, because they were registered with us slightly closer to the deadline, and we will be prioritizing login details for you as we approach the end of this week. So yes, please do email me, find my email address in the chat, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
There's another question about, will the globes go out at the start, at the end? It will be from mid-May till the end. So we're envisioning over like a 2 or 3 week period to get all of those out. As Sabrina said, it would probably be about 200 odd globes. So we're just still pinning down with our delivery partners, Wild in Art, the logistics of that and how we go around from like a city to city kind of system to get all the globes out to you. But it will be from mid-May onwards, but hopefully by the start of June you will have your globe, and that gives you at least 6 weeks to decorate it, which we know is absolutely sufficient. Okay, we've got a question. Do you want us to record Pupil Voice? Yes, we do. So we're going to be coming at you very soon with evaluation stuff. So for anyone that's signed up to the program, the Glow program and the Poetic program, we're going to be telling you, you know, how we'd like to capture your voice, your development, your journey, but most certainly we want to hear from young people. So yeah, that will definitely be a part of it. But I know that a lot of you are already proactive with that kind of stuff anyway. So if you already start doing it, then please do just share it, shove it over to us, and we will definitely make use of it. Okay, any more questions? Nope. All right. Well, I guess we should just leave it there then, shouldn't we? It's been lovely speaking to you all. Such a pleasure. And the next time you'll hear from us in terms of in a forum like this with an event, it will be talking about the Poetic program. We've got some exciting stuff lined up for that. And we're hoping to get some guest speakers along. I might do my poem that I wrote for the campaign. And we'll just share a bit more about how we're expecting young people who are not in a school that is one of the learning host cities that get to engage with the Globe programme, how they can still connect with this fabulous project, connect with our resources and respond through the wonderful medium that is poetry. Okay, we are bang on 6 o'clock. I love being punctual, so, and I'm sure you do too. So let's all leave it there and run into the evening with so much gusto. And I hope you're not like just marking and stuff. I hope you do something fun as well. Get your slippers on and, you know, have a breather, have a lovely cup of tea and all that jazz. And thank you to all of our fabulous speakers. Roma had to leave us early, but thank you to Melissa. Thank you to Teddy. It's always a pleasure to see you. Very excited to geek out with you in the future and talk more about these icons that we're going to be sharing with everyone in September. And always and ever, thank you to Sabrina, holding it down in the learning team, and Mabel, who was lurking in the chat and making sure that we didn't lose any of your wonderful comments. Okie dokie. Bye, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Well done.